Good morning, everybody. Apologies, this is starting a little bit later than usual, but I'm realizing that with the break, there was a little bit less time than I was actually hoping to concentrate on Beckett, and so really this week is a combination of last week, this week, right? All of sort of Beckett and finishing up, so I think we're going to be okay with this series of videos and with our checking on participation. There's a lot of things kind of that we're going to be doing this week with turning in our expanded outlines and everything like that, so I'm not too concerned, right? This is the first of the plays that we're doing. We've got a lot to come, and so I'd like, if we can, to sort of ease into this. But if we talk about sort of finishing up with Endgame, what are we really looking at, right? The first group that presented the video on Endgame did some really excellent work sort of talking through how these characters are perceived, how we perceive them, how we feel about what they're doing, what their motivations seem to be, etc. So if you have not watched that video, please go back and watch it. I think it's full of a lot of insight, and I will have at the very end, right, of this week's video cycles, a bit of a response to it. There are a few things I do want to talk through with that, but I would like to give that video a little bit of time to breathe before I get to sort of my comments on it, because I think it's important that as students, as you're presenting these things, that you have your moment to really talk through what's going on. So when we talk about the ending of Endgame, right, the ending of Endgame is suggested by the very title of the play, right? Endgame, as we talked about, is more looked at as a chess match. We know how it's going to end. Somebody already knows that unless there is a big mistake made by the other side, they are going to lose, and somebody knows that unless they make a big mistake, they are going to win, right? Chess is a game that often ends a couple of turns before it actually ends, because somebody can see, right, in the pieces, in the way that the moves are sort of constructed, that there is no I guess suspense in the fact that this is going to end. So how is it that we can spend most of Endgame looking with Ham and Clove at the ending of things and sort of trying to anticipate, is it actually going to end, right? They seem to understand things are ending, things are going to end, they have to end, it's time it ended, but there's this inability to get there, right? And so I think talking about the ending of Endgame is very much figuring out, do we believe these characters? Do we believe what's going on? Do we believe how they have arrived at their conclusions? We have some really fantastic soliloquies at the end of the play that I feel are very, very worthwhile. There are three in particular I'm going to talk about today. The first is actually not Ham or Clove. It's actually Ham's father. It's going to be Nag. And it is his small soliloquy when he talks about, as a father, that, according to him, whether we believe this memory or not, as we've already talked about, we're never sure about anything in any of these plays. But when Ham was younger, he used to cry out, and they would let him cry, but that at some point, right, Ham is going to actually need his father, and his father is not going to be there and is not going to come, and that this is going to be a very important thing, right? That his father finally sort of takes back his control of the situation and saying, you keep calling for me, you don't really need me, I come out of my trash can, you insult me, you tell me to go back, but at some point you're really going to actually need me, and I'm not going to be here for you. The second is Clove's soliloquy at the end, where he talks about what it means to sort of end, right? To be done with everything, and to, I guess, sort of to paraphrase Dylan, right? Going actually gently, right, into the good night. No more suffering, no more struggling against it. It's just time it ended, right? And then we have our final soliloquy by Ham, which is sort of a performance piece, right, where we sort of really have to determine, he's been playing this game. He's been playing this as if it is a performance piece, right? Rehearsing, telling his story. Is this actually a real story? Is it not a real story? How do we feel about this? And I think it's important to look at all three and to evaluate, what do these do for us as an audience? What do these do for the characters? And how do we understand sort of what Beckett is trying to do for us? What does he want us to feel? What do we sometimes feel as we're looking at these things? And, very much in the same way that we said with Waiting for Godot, that there is no point, quote unquote, right? What do we get to? What conclusions do we draw from this? What do we make of what we anticipated these characters wanted? Do they get any measure of what it is that they actually wanted? And where do we leave them, right? Do we leave this play having advanced further than we were at the beginning? Or is this play going to rise again, right, in the next performance with all the players reset? So let's start with our soliloquies, and then we will move on to our conclusions.